Week marks 2 years since South Africa went into a nationwide COVID-19 lockdown. At the time, President Cyril Ramaphosa had announced a 21-day hard lockdown in response to the pandemic. And 2 years on, we're seeing the first signs of a return to normality as lockdown restrictions are further eased. Let's get some reaction now from the Health Department's Deputy Director General, Nicholas Crisp. Doc, always a pleasure having you right here on the South African Morning. Thank you so much for your time. We'll get to your reaction to the President's announcement just last night. But first, let's take some stock. 2 years on since the President first made that announcement that we're going into a 21-day lockdown, how far has the country come from a public health perspective?
Yeah, hi, Stamela, and good morning to your viewers. Well, all I can say is what a roller coaster ride for all of us. It's been, I was talking to family and friends over the weekend and saying I can hardly believe it was only 2 years ago. And so much has happened, so many things have changed and constantly been in a state of flux. But we have reached a position now where we are reasonably safe for now. We do suspect or expect that there will be a fifth wave. We don't know what that wave will look like, so we need to be on our guard. Our challenge, of course, is that we as South Africans like to compare ourselves with other countries. And we tend to compare ourselves with European and American countries who have vaccinated 80, 90% and more of their population. And then we are surprised that we still have restrictions. You know, when we are able to cooperate and to protect ourselves and get a higher proportion of the population vaccinated, we won't need all these restrictions at all. But we are very pleased that we're phasing out. We are confident that it's possible to get out of the disaster management now, or soon, as soon as the health regulations come into effect, and that then those regulations will be in place and we'll be able to use them if we need them when the next waves arrive.
Yeah, I just want to look back as well on some of the lessons you have learned as a department, Doc, because speaking about, South Africa constantly comparing itself to other European countries, many reports have been written about how the pandemic has almost amplified the inequality in health, not only in the country, but also in the continent. What were some of the lessons for you as a department during these past 2 years?
Yeah, thanks. For those of us who work within this space all the time, we know that there's dramatic inequities. And everybody is aware that South Africa is the most unequal society in the world. And in healthcare, it's really bad. That's why, my main job is to establish national health insurance. We need to get to a point where we have equity in the way we access health services, and we don't bankrupt ourselves or end up in a situation of severe financial hardship when we need health care. And that has been exacerbated during this time. We have had some positive lessons. The public and the private sectors have collaborated better than ever before. We have managed to get a very sizable vaccination response, both in the public and the private sector. We have had over 3,000 vaccination sites operating. And even now, we can still vaccinate 250,000 people, vaccinations every day. We have managed to get good logistic supplies, even with very difficult vaccines to move around. And we've been able to improve a lot of the infrastructure for oxygen and care for people with severe illnesses in our hospitals. So there have definitely been improvements, and I think all praise to health workers. It's been 2 years of extremely hard work under very difficult circumstances looking after people. But not everything is in the health department's hands. A lot of what we do is in our hands as individuals. And we know that as public health specialists. People smoke, they drive too fast, they use firearms irresponsibly. People do all sorts of very strange things that put them in danger, and then they end up in the hands of the health professionals. And that's the same position we have here. We know what we're dealing with now, whereas 2 years ago we had no clue what we were dealing with. And we know that if we all get vaccinated, and the more vaccinations we have, the better is our immune response, then we are all collectively protected. So the lessons are both positive and negative. And I think what we owe ourselves now is to consolidate what we have done during COVID positively, learn the lessons of things we haven't done so well, and to build on that as we improve our health services.
Right. I think following the president's announcement last night, there was almost a sense that we're going back into some sense of normalcy. In your view, Doc, is that the case? Are we moving into a direction where we're seeing, less of the stricter regulations and lockdowns and more into, back to, how life was before? Or is it a matter of just learning now to live with the virus? Where's South Africa headed at this point?
Well, personally, I hope we never go back to the so-called normal we had before, because there were some devastating things. We were still promoting and pushing and exacerbating our inequities. And I hope we're not going back to that. I hope that we've all learned that my neighbor's health is my health, and that it's very important for all of us to look after one another. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the middle of a pandemic or not. But yes, we are going back to some form of more tolerable life. We still need to be aware that there are dangers around us. These viruses behave very strangely at short notice, and we are likely to get other pandemics. So I guess the lesson is that if we act responsibly, we act collectively, we work together, and we listen to the experts who do advise us. And obviously experts do have different opinions, so we need to wade through many of those different opinions that we get. But we will get back to a far more tolerable life. But as I say, I hope the new normal is a different normal from what we had before, where we actually look after one another.
Dr. Crispus, I leave a conversation. I appreciate your time this morning and joining us right here on the South African Morning. Health Department's Deputy Director General, Dr. Nicholas Crisp.